Right, so let's talk about universal credit because honestly, there are some absolute game changers that most people just don't know about. I'm talking about things that could genuinely put hundreds of pounds back in your pocket every single month, and barely anyone's talking about them. First things first, let's tackle the work allowance. This is massive and loads of people don't realize they've got one. Basically, if you're working while on universal credit, you can earn a certain amount before your benefit starts getting reduced. In the current tax year, if you've got limited capability for work or you're a carer, your work allowance is £290 a month. If you don't fall into either of those categories, it's £192. Right, so what does that actually mean? It means anything you earn up to that amount doesn't affect your universal credit at all. Earn 192 quid? You keep it all and your full universal credit comes through. But here's where most people get it wrong. Once you go over that allowance, they take away 50 pence for every pound you earn. So if you earn 200 quid and your allowance is 192, that extra 8 quid means you lose 4 quid from your universal credit. It's not great, but it's not a cliff edge where you lose everything. The problem is that so many people think earning extra money will leave them worse off, so they just don't bother. They cap their hours or turn down work. Don't do that. Even with the taper, you're usually better off working more. Now, let's talk about self-employment because this is where it gets really interesting. If you're self-employed, universal credit assumes you're going to make a certain minimum income. It's called the minimum income floor. Right now, that's based on the national living wage times 35 hours a week. But here's the thing that nobody talks about: in your first month of self-employment, they don't apply the minimum income floor at all. So if you're just starting out, you get to declare your actual profits, which might be basically nothing, and you don't get penalized. That breathing room can be absolutely crucial. Plus, if you're trading for less than the minimum income floor in any given month, they assess you on what you actually earned, not what they think you should have earned. So the minimum income floor isn't the straitjacket people think it is. Let me tell you about something that absolutely nobody mentions: the capital disregard for self-employed people. If you've got business capital, there's a different set of rules. You can have up to 6,000 quid in capital without it affecting your universal credit at all. Now, that might sound like it's the same as everyone else, but the way they count it is different. They don't apply the capital taper to business capital in the same way. It's one of those confusing things where you need to ask your work coach or the helpline specifically about your situation, but there's definitely some room to maneuver there. Right, here's a tip that could save you serious money. Make sure you're claiming all the things that sit on top of universal credit. Most people know about the basic allowance, but there are additions. Disability additions if you've got a disability. Childcare costs if you're paying for childcare and you're looking for work. Carer's allowance if you're caring for someone. These aren't automatic. You have to claim them. I've met people who've been on universal credit for months and suddenly realized they were entitled to an additional 50 quid a week because they didn't understand the system. Read through that eligibility checker on the universal credit website properly. Now, earnings disregards for certain groups. If you're a young carer, a person with a disability, or a carer for someone else, you might have different rules about how your earnings are treated. Some young carers have a complete earnings disregard, meaning they can earn something without it affecting their benefit at all, on top of the standard work allowance. Again, you have to know to ask about this. Let me talk about the gateway period. When you first claim universal credit, there's something called the gateway period, and this is absolutely crucial. You need to show that you're actively looking for work. But the way they assess this has actually become a bit more flexible in recent years. They'll look at what you're doing, not just tick boxes. So if you're doing stuff that's genuinely moving you towards work, like doing a course, getting a qualification, or even just updating your CV, these things count. You don't have to be applying for 10 jobs a day, though obviously, you should be putting genuine effort in. But just make sure you're documenting what you're doing, because if you can show a work coach that you're actively engaged in job search, you'll have an easier time. Here's something loads of people miss: the coronavirus support scheme equivalent hasn't actually gone away completely. I know the pandemic payments ended ages ago, but there are still some exceptional circumstances where hardship payments can be made. They're discretionary, and they're not easy to get, but if you're in genuine hardship, facing destitution basically, you can apply. Most people don't even know they can ask for this. Your local authority has a pot of money for this, and they're often underused. If you're really struggling, it's worth having a conversation with your work coach about it. Now, the advance payment system. When you first claim universal credit, you have to wait about a month for your first payment. Most people know about that. What they don't know is that you can request an advance. You get part of your payment early. The catch is that they'll claw this back from your future payments, so you're essentially borrowing against yourself. But if you're in genuine crisis, if you're about to lose your home or you can't eat, an advance can get you through that first month. It's paid back over 12 months, so it's manageable. Let's talk about underpayments. Universal credit gets recalculated every month based on what you've actually earned. So if you've been overpaid because you made a mistake or because circumstances changed, you owe them money back. But equally, if you've been underpaid, they owe you. Check your statements regularly. Go back through them. I've seen cases where people have been underpaid by hundreds of quid but didn't realize because they weren't checking properly. The DWP won't necessarily flag this up to you. You've got to be proactive. And finally, this is really important, the appeals process. If a decision goes against you, don't just accept it. You can ask for a mandatory reconsideration. You've got 1 month from the date on the decision letter. Just explain why you think they've got it wrong. If you put it in writing and you're detailed about it, sometimes they'll reverse the decision just based on that. If they don't, you can appeal to a tribunal. These things take time, but the system does allow for mistakes to be corrected. Loads of appeals actually succeed, so don't give up. The bottom line is this: universal credit is complicated, and the DWP isn't always brilliant at telling you about everything you're entitled to. You've got to stay engaged with the system, check your payments, and ask questions. Use the helpline. Ask your work coach. Read the guidance online. There is genuinely money on the table for people who know where to look. If you found this helpful, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and pop a comment below telling me what you want to know about benefits. Cheers!